friends, Shannon here, animal intuitive and sensitive, or animal communicator if that's easier, and Reiki master practitioner with animal love languages. And you can see my 23-year-old soul bird, Shannon Cutts, here over behind my shoulder, adding a little bit of beatboxing with his calcium and cuttlebone here. You can have both. That is so cute. Okay, not to get too distracted here. So I hope you are enjoying our series thus far on highly sensitive pets and their people. Highly sensitive people and highly sensitive pets. That combination happens to be my particular specialty and passion. But I work with all species and I work with all temperaments and personalities. And there are advantages and disadvantages of each. I prefer to simply look at it as we are all different and yet the same. And as I shared in the last video, increasingly as I do this work, I become less and less interested about what costume that the being I'm talking with happens to be wearing. In fact, I learned on my very first serious, if you will, or structured animal communication practice session with my very first animal communication teacher that species really doesn't matter, because I fully expected to be talking with a dog or perhaps a cat. Turns out I was speaking with a wonderful yellow iguana. Nobody could have been more excited than me because I just adore exotic, so-called exotic animals. I also believe we're all exotic. No two of us are precisely alike, and yet at the most fundamental core, we're all kind of pretty much wired the same way. And here in this particular series, I'm addressing, the first time actually, I've never done a series like this, and I'm addressing the highly sensitive pet. And how to identify, are you keeping company with a highly sensitive pet, either a member of your interspecies family, or are you perhaps working with a rescued pet who is showing signs of being highly sensitive? All right, that is so cute. Did you just drop your sparkly parrot? He dropped his sparkly parrot. This is his sparkly parrot that his grandmother gave him. If you follow us on Instagram, Love and Feathers and Shells, you know all about the sparkly parrot. It's very important. Yeah, when you drop it, I pick it up. So back to the video. We're talking about how can you tell, let's say maybe you're working as a professional animal trainer or behaviorist, and you are working with, or perhaps you're an animal holistic practitioner or a body worker, and you're working with an animal, and they seem a little bit less excited about being interacted with or touched, or they just don't seem to have as much stamina in sessions with you as some of the animals that you've worked with. And what happens is that we can take it personally, and it's really not. It has to do with how that animal is wired. There can be trauma and many other elements. I'm not trying to dumb it down or oversimplify it, but it is important to understand if there's some kind of underlying foundational inborn temperament that we can adjust our way of being with that animal for their highest good. And actually, it's going to be much more productive and much more fun for both of us if we can kind of master these basic skills. So we talked about some of the traits. How can you identify that you have a highly sensitive pet, or that you are highly sensitive, because we can apply all these same things to us. We talked about how to prepare for extended periods of interaction, whether that's a training session or a bodywork session, or you're headed out for some kind of meetup or a competition or festive outing to the dog park or the park. And so in this particular video, I wanted to talk to you about how to tune into the signs that your highly sensitive animal has had enough. They can be subtle or overt. Because high sensitivity, it occurs along a spectrum. And it's not like you can even say, okay, here's the 10 different kinds of being highly sensitive. You can be a highly sensitive introvert. You can be a highly sensitive extrovert. You can factor in Enneagram personality or Colby's, or all kinds of different ways of parsing out what the personality of each unique being is, which is why it's so cool that we have these relationships across species, because it can take a lifetime to get to know someone else. I mean, oh my baby. Dropped his parrot again. You're so cute. It took me, and I read about it in our book, Love and Feathers, what a palm-sized parrot is talking about life, love, and healthy self-esteem, which you have in spades. It took me years before I realized his favorite color is green, right? And that's why I have to be so careful with all these green family members we have around us. He went nuts when I gave him a spinach leaf, and I realized he was willing to eat greens. And I also realized what his favorite color is, other than gray and white, of course. And so we always have something new to learn. There's always something fresh and exciting to experience when we wake up each morning. And so in this particular case, let's take a look at how can you tell that your pet just needs a timeout, and in the best possible way. One of the signs, and some of it depends on species. I'll start with dogs. Our dachshund, Flash Gordon, he starts yawning a lot. He may start drooling. He will try to walk off by himself. A lot of times if we're at home and we have guests over or people over, my mom's pretty extroverted and she likes to have folks over. And of course that's been curtailed a little bit with COVID, but she has long-standing friendships in the neighborhood. Sometimes they bring their dogs, and Flash, last week we had a little birthday get together for a neighbor, and oh my goodness, she brought her little 8-week-old puppy, and that puppy took one look at Flash and was like, oh my God, the best new toy ever. Just climbed all over Flash mercilessly. And Flash, just like he would find a place to hide, he would go outside. Obviously we separated the two of them for his sanity and not wanting to overstress him out. But so you can look for signs like that, and it's good to study the breed or the species that you have to learn any specific species hallmarks for him. For Pearl, a lot of times we see, and you probably saw it in one of the earlier videos, you see a lot of striking or biting. It's like he's going at me kind of, or he'll start screeching, right, like that. And now that we know each other so well, oh, I'm sorry, sweetie, we've been together 23 years. I can tell sometimes by just the change of his body weight on my body, on my knee or my shoulder, how he's feeling. And often, as I shared in an earlier video, he can tell when I'm getting my emotional panties in a wad before I do, and he'll start screaming because it affects him too. Moving away from someone or something is another telltale sign. It could be because somebody is experiencing strong emotions or a lot of stressful mentalizing, mental pictures, rehearsing arguments, things like that in their head. Maybe it's not obvious overtly, but you see the animal move away. Another classic for dogs, if we're gonna start there, is either you see aggression or submission. And especially if it's not something that you see all the time, you can ask yourself, is this perhaps an invitation to go away, to just stop, and to make whatever is happening that is not working or is just overwhelming for that animal, to make it stop. Because again, as we talked about in the last video, highly sensitive being of any species is a being who is walking around with all their volume controls pretty much turned out pretty high, depending on where that being falls on the spectrum of high sensitivity. It could be all the way up to 10 or 10 plus. I happen to be one of those highly sensitive beings, so I even like my movies on low. And I often wear earplugs if I go to a theater or I'm watching a movie with somebody else who doesn't have that inbuilt volume, controls always on 10. So I'm always trying to turn it down. You can think of it like if you're someone who's always cold or someone who's always hot, it's like you're always trying to kind of adjust your environment to manage your inbuilt thermostat. And so it's the same way with sensitivity. So it's their physical body, their mental, their emotional, and their connective body or their spirit body. And they're always trying to kind of dial down the volume. And it's unlike, if the volume's up high on any of those areas, they're not going to be able to endure it, and certainly not enjoy it for very long before they need a break. So you can also, with parrots, a really good thing to look for is, the biting or this, he wants to go back. So he's like, let me get away from her right now. She's really high intensity. And So you can look for the vocalizing, you can look for the biting, you can look for the body language. Body language is universal. If you see a sign of moving away, of trying to make oneself smaller, looking for hiding places, trying to go outside, anything that says, I'm not having a good time right now. Maybe I was 5 seconds ago, but I just reached my limit and I'm out. I need to go decompress. I need to go put some headphones on or some goggles or whatever it is that's overstimulating me. And so same thing with cats, any kind of aggressive behavior, hissing. You can look to the fur, the hair, the tail with cockatiels and parrots that have crests. The crest is a really great indicator of kind of where their tolerance meter is resting. If it's kind of chill and kind of relaxed, yeah, his beak is open and his crest is up right now, and that's a good sign of go away, go away. There's no come closer in that body language. And so that's a really reliable indicator. Vocalizing a lot, and definitely also something that doesn't get talked about a lot. An animal, but highly sensitive beings, highly sensitive pets, highly sensitive animals, they tend to need more sleep. They will sleep more than the average or the typical. And of course, animals, they do sleep a lot. Rest while the resting is good. There's no time like the present for yet another restful nap. And we do see that a lot. And there's many different reasons. It can be boredom, it can be age, it can be how they're feeling health-wise. It can be that's what the species does, especially if you've got a nocturnal species or a crepuscular species that you're caring for that's got a different or backwards body clock from your own. But the most important thing is that, closing the eyes and sleeping, it's a way to retreat. So what we're looking for essentially, and your animal best, and if you're working with an animal, this is a great way to get to know them, to start really honing in on what is their body language telling me? This is a great way to start learning the very, very fundamental basics of animal communication too. If they were human, what do I think they might be telling me? If I was them, or if they were a human being like me, how would I be feeling right about now? That is a great way to start practicing, and notice what comes up for you right away. You'd be like, oh gosh, I think I'd want a break, or I think I'd be thinking, that's one thing I always do as a highly sensitive person. As soon as I enter a new space, I want to know where the exit and the bathroom is. So those are two surefire retreat points. And your highly sensitive animal is pretty much wired the same way. So those are some things to look for, to just watch for, and to start becoming more aware of. And if you're not highly sensitive and you're caring for an animal that you suspect or you think or you've been told or that is highly sensitive, don't worry. Ultimately, it's about empathy. You don't have to it doesn't matter what your sensitivity setting is. We all come inbuilt with empathy. Empathy is the pathway through which we communicate with one another of our own species and also across species boundaries. So you've got empathy. You just need to activate it on behalf of your particular animal that you're working with, or that you're keeping company with, or that is in your interspecies family. And the more you can activate that empathy, the more you can walk a mile in their paws, or flap around in their wings, or crawl around on the floor in their shell, then the better you're going to be able to recognize what your animal is telling you about what they want and what they need. So I hope you're enjoying this video so far. It's a joy and a pleasure for me to offer this series, because working with highly sensitive pets and highly sensitive people is my jam. It's my specialty. It definitely is something my personal wiring supports. If you would like to learn more about how to activate your pet parent intuition or your animal communication, your inbuilt animal communication software, you can head over to animallovelanguages.com, click on Learn with Me, free tools. I've got lots of fun things that you can work with for free. If you want to work with me, I would be delighted and honored. Do all the usual things like subscribe, share with a friend who loves animals, and let me know how I can serve you and what you'd like to hear about and learn about next. Okay? Alrighty. All my love. Bye for now.